It is someone's imperfections that make them beautiful. In a digital world without imperfection, with just a screen, with no past or future, only now there is no beauty. Byung-Chul Han. As we move forward with everyday life, our world is evolving. Over the course of the 21st century, I think our world has shifted through the modern era and into the postmodern era through surveillance and discipline. In this video, I will use Michel Foucault and Gilles Deleuze to help support my argument through the lens of surveillance. My main focus will be comparing and contrasting our world to the United States prison system. Jeremy Bentham was an English philosopher and social theorist who introduced a social control mechanism called the panopticon. The panopticon is a prison design where the guard can see every cell and inmate, but the inmates can't see the guard. Prisoners will never know whether or not they are being watched. Foucault, a French philosopher, continued to build off this idea of the panopticon and explained that the panopticon isn't just in the life of prison, but is a system of control that is present in our everyday lives. Foucault explores two different types of power, disciplinary power and sovereign power. Sovereign power is where the social body follows the law of the king or the central authority figure. He argues we have moved on from sovereign power in the 18th and 19th century and happened upon a shift of power when the new forms of surveillance were coming out and discipline became a popular branch of power regulating the behavior of individuals in the social body. This is done by regulating the organization of space, time, and people's activity and behavior. Discipline is enforced with the support of complex systems of surveillance. Foucault emphasizes that power is not discipline. Instead, discipline is simply how power can be exercised. Disciplinary power is in every system we have, such as schools, prisons, hospitals, etc. For example, one starts out at a young age where you are constantly under surveillance. Attendance is taken at school every day, and if you are absent, you must tell the teacher in advance. When one is allowed to leave the classroom, there are other forms of hierarchical surveillance. In elementary school, you go outside and have recess where another teacher is there to observe you. School also teaches one what acceptable behavior is. If you make a mistake, you are sent to the principal's office to explain what you did wrong. These forms of discipline and surveillance evolve as one gets older and never disappear. Gilles Deleuze was a French philosopher in the 1950s until his death in 1995. Deleuze explores how control and freedom function in this evolving world of surveillance through his theory, a society of control, which is similar to Foucault's disciplinary society. A society of control presents the illusion of freedom. Deleuze argues we are always enclosed within these societies, such as schools, hospitals, prisons, factories, etc. However, now our world is less enclosed because technology is giving us the power to have freedom. For example, today it is common for people not to come into work in person because they can work from home due to technological advancements. Even though technology is helpful in our everyday life, more and more people are realizing how controlled one is through their phone or computer. Are we really free if we are being controlled by technology? Think about control and how technology has the power to control your ads, track your location, see who one is in contact with, and so on. In my prison's gender and education class, we asked this question. Nums, another author of Octavia's Brood, says that since prison systems have become more and more pervasive in our society, other elements of our lives have become prison-like as well. Today, I will be having some of my friends who fall in the category of Generation Z answer this question, unscripted, just so you know it is not me who is feeling like we are living in a world where we are constantly being watched. What are some examples of societal expectations that feel prison-like to you? The prison system has become more and more persuasive in our society, and other elements of our lives have become prison-like as well. What are some examples of societal expectations that feel prison-like to you?
I think that socially and technologically, there are a lot of things in the world that you don't really have as much freedom or ability to choose in. I think that for example, having phones or participating in social media, you would kind of be alienated from society if you didn't participate. And so I think that the lack of freedom and the lack of ability to choose whether or not you participate in these things is pretty parallel to, prison-like things.
Great.
So in our everyday life, something that would feel prison-like would be the constant surveillance that has kind of taken over in technology, whether that be they track you, they know who you're with, what you like to buy, things like that. They can get all that data on you and your preferences and just be constantly watching you. And so that level of surveillance feels a little bit prison-like, in terms of in prison you're always being watched, or you feel like you're being watched at least.
There are a few things in society that I can think of that resemble prison-like system. First, I think marriage, just kind of a weird social construct that has a lot of rules and a lot of judgment, and there is a very strict outline for kind of the way that you're supposed to love, and what that's supposed to entail, how that is supposed to look to people from the outside. You are not really supposed to show signs of struggle or weakness, and you're supposed to be very committed to one person, which in some ways is really beautiful, but also you're really being contained in one space, one option, that you make a choice when you're young and you're not stuck, but you're pretty stuck. And then another one that I think of is social media. Just people have this framework that you're supposed to present your life in a very particular way, and you are supposed to be up to date. I think that social media really sucks you in part because there are all these algorithms that are, keeping you wanting to be there, but there's also this expectation from our peers that we will be caught up with all of the cultural norms, all of the current jokes.
Bing bong!
And memes and TikTok videos and songs and everything, and you don't want to fall behind, so you're trapped watching TikTok for hours because that's what you have to do to be accepted in our social world.
Byung-Chul Han is a South Korean-born Swiss-German philosopher who challenges modern technology. I wanted to bring Han into my project because he can be considered a modern philosopher, which will help my argument as to why we have moved on from the modern era and into the postmodern era. Today, we are living in a neoliberal order, which is where the government sees its citizens as consumers, which benefits the economy. Economic growth to the 1% means to achieve human progress. Today, technology has helped our society progress in many ways. However, Han argues technology has underlying negative effects that tie into Deleuze and Foucault's idea of societal control and surveillance. Today, we are controlled and surveilled through technology, which isolates oneself from the other because we are hiding behind screens. I think we have moved into the postmodern era because people are starting to figure out what is wrong with modernity.
We need to pass strong privacy protections to make sure we don't end up in a world where we feel constantly monitored, where the government abuses this technology against people of color and other vulnerable communities, and where we feel like we're monitored from the moment we leave our house until we return.
And that is the end of my video. Thank you guys so much. I had an amazing class with you all.